Go.
I think we will ask Eric to kick off the meeting with the Discover Palm Desert overview, and then Randy Bowman will follow up with the Development Services Lobby project. Both of these were addressed during the budget session, and Council had asked for more of an update on both projects. So today we're here to answer questions, make sure that you're comfortable with both projects. If there's some additional research you would like done, we're happy to get that done. So Eric, I'll turn it over to you.
Excellent, thank you. Eric Seha, your Director for Economic Development. I'm going to share my screen and we have a PowerPoint for you. I believe you can see this now. So in regards to Discover Palm Desert, we want to provide you an introduction, kind of the purpose of the building and what we've been looking at in terms of the location and some design, give you an update on the project timeline to date, and including moving forward, and introduce the design team, which consists of Press Fuchsik and Greenwood Architects, which we've been working with for about 18 months. So history of the Palm Desert Visitor Center. The city has operated a visitor center since 1998. Well, before that, but since 1998, the visitor center itself has had 4 different locations. So we've kind of moved the building around and the operations around throughout the city. But since 2015, the visitor center has been within City Hall, kind of in our north wing of our Civic Center campus here. In 2019, the City Council provided direction for us to explore options for a new visitor center, what we call Visitor Center Plus, here at the Civic Center campus. The plus is that the building itself really need to be more multifunctional, not only to serve visitor services, but also special events. It also needed to engage with San Pablo and the CV Link improvements that were new to the area. It needed to provide additional community space and some public art. And the building itself, Council's direction was really to provide something dramatic, something of architectural significance and interest. And at that point, we rebranded it to Discover Palm Desert. So I mentioned that we are working with Press Fuchsik Greenwood Architects. We've been in a design phase for about 18 months. Some of it happened in starts and fits as we navigated through the COVID pandemic and how we started working through this process. Again, the building needs to function more than just as a visitor service center here. And so we're looking at the right location for this building. And it was identified that the turf area adjacent to the skate park was an ideal location, not only because of how it engaged with San Pablo and its visibility to the street, but also how it engaged with the rest of the Civic Center campus and could be used for special events, staging areas for the number of events that we have here, and concerts in the park as well. And so we'll go through some of the design features with the architect in just a couple more slides. But at the time, we've been using the Economic Development Subcommittee to review these design options to kind of go through an iterative design process to get to where we are today. But the challenge that was presented to the architect was to provide something that's more dramatic, artistic, and more of a free-form building, something that is unique to the Civic Center campus here and doesn't resemble any of the existing architecture that we have here at the campus already. So here we're providing a floor plan to show some of the lobby and gallery space, some of the storage areas that are needed to support the visitor center or Discover Palm Desert Center, and kind of the orientation for how we'll back to the skate park and provide new walkthrough space that connects to San Pablo into the Civic Center campus and still engages with City Hall. And with that, I think I'll turn it over to John and Nicole with Press Fuchsik.
Thanks, Eric. If you could actually go back a slide. Thank you. So as Eric mentioned, we rebranded this to Discover Palm Desert quite a while back. And with that, we really wanted to kind of think about that from a design standpoint. So every kind of opportunity we could find to make the visitor feel like they were actually discovering the building and in turn discovering Palm Desert, we wanted to provide that. And that really did start with this plan here. So allowing people to discover this building from really any direction, coming either from the Civic Center itself, from CV Link, from San Pablo, from City Hall. It really doesn't matter where you are, you can gain access to this building as if it was the front door. In addition to that, we have sort of this central space where you can see labeled the outdoor flex gallery, which is kind of your arrival point. And from there, you still are discovering, and you can either go directly into the lobby where you would be greeted and pick up pamphlets or see maps of Palm Desert or get more information, or maybe perhaps buy a t-shirt or something of that nature. Or you could wander directly over into a gallery that would also have, things that talk about the history of Palm Desert, or maybe it's a rotating gallery with artwork from local artists. Or you can wander into the outdoor community spaces where there's tons of seating opportunities and public art and plenty of shade. We also have the opportunity for a coffee kiosk, which is up towards the northwestern side, for people who are wanting to sit around and have a cup of coffee, whether they're biking or playing tennis or at the skate park or the dog park or just walking. And then we also have a secondary kiosk on the west side for an additional opportunity for something of that similar nature, whether it be food or products or more storage or something to support CV Link. It can really kind of take a more flexible approach. Go ahead and go on to the next slide. So as Eric mentioned, we really wanted to create a type of architecture that was very unique and still in line with that desert feel, very organic as far as forms and materials. So all of the materials that we're looking at are very kind of raw. So some raw concrete, some raw plaster, metals, even getting into the planting materials and incorporating boulders and very organic forms with providing shade opportunities. If you could go to the next slide. So here's a great shot here where we're using artwork as well to create sort of that unique feel. So you can see the artwork kind of penetrating through the roof line. That roof line has really morphed over the design process, becoming very organic, very dramatic, something that would be very easily seen from really any vantage point, and every vantage point that you would look at it from would be different. So you, again, are discovering the building as you walk around it. And same thing with all of these petal shaped or potato chip shaped shade features. They are also very three-dimensional and dynamic. If you go to the next slide. Here you can kind of start to see some of the photography that we're proposing on the building that is pulled from the historic archives. This one in particular is of El Paseo before it was fully developed. So using that kind of history on the building as a material, in addition to having that in the building, we're kind of bringing some of those ideas outside as well. Those kiosks that you can see here to the left, the little kind of lavender color is a shipping container. Again, so just keeping that, very raw feeling and very dramatic with the sloping roof as well. Go to the next slide. This is a view looking from coming in from the park. So this is where you can really start to see that breezeway going directly through the site, and through that you would see the mountain views. So as you're approaching from the Civic Center side, you would just get sort of this compressed view that as you walk through really opens up. And again, you're discovering sort of the nature and the beauty of the desert itself. Go to the next slide. Just some more views. This would be your vantage point walking over from City Hall itself. And this is just sort of a little snippet of some of those seating areas. There's many of them throughout the entire project, all very different, all very unique, providing different sorts of materials that you would get to sit with, different proximities to nature, different amounts of shade, public art, different types of furniture. Go to the next slide. This is looking directly coming in from San Pablo. So you can kind of see that same breezeway effect, except it would go in the opposite direction, looking out into the Rose Garden across the way. It really kind of aligns almost directly with that in plan view. Using some of the boulders and things to also create seating opportunities, turning them into benching in some locations. Next slide. This is another shot of one of those seating areas where someone could sit and have a cup of coffee, or maybe even work in the wintertime when it's cool enough to sit out there. You can see off to the left, there is another hole in the ceiling to provide another art opportunity. We're thinking that these would be opportunities to bring in local artists to use public art in those spaces. so that there's lots of opportunities throughout the whole project to have that. You can see the butterfly there as well. That's another opportunity for some sort of public art. Also playing with the logo itself on the building over to the right and bringing that shipping container type of material throughout the building as well. You see it there in blue at the entry, but it also shows up on the building itself, but in sort of a different application with perforated metals, providing some play with light, but also providing shade. So really getting multiple uses out of those materials. Go to the next one. And this is another view from sort of the parking lot side, just again, showing those outdoor spaces. And that might be the last one, yeah.
All right, so, I think what the challenge was for the architects here was to really provide something unique, a lot of seating areas for people to enjoy and kind of hang out at this area. And again, discover the building itself and the amenities that we have here. But kind of the next steps for this project, we've done some preliminary cost estimates, and as labor increases in cost, as materials increase in cost, this building right now ranges somewhere between 2 and 4 million. I think the best quote that we have at this point is just over $3 million to do site preparation work and to construct this building. We do have 1.2 million in bond funds available for this site, but additional funding could be available for art specific items, but the remaining funds will need to be required from unobligated general funds. The construction timeline is approximately 12 to 14 months, and we would hope to bring this back to the City Council for a formal action sometime in July of this year. That's really our presentation. I think the architects or myself would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great. Are there any questions? I have a quick question. How many square feet are actually interior under a roof?
You want to give me just a minute, I'll look it up.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments? Gina, please.
Well, I think it's very exciting. I wish the price tag was a little lower on it, but I'm sure all of us have had positive comments on just how beautiful Envision San Pablo has been looking with the CV link and the bike lanes, going past City Hall. And I just think this just adds to the overall beauty of this downtown core we are creating. And I just hope it fits within our budget.
Okay, thank you. Karina, please.
Thank you. It is absolutely stunning. It is stunning. I love the colors. It is unlike anything in the valley. It stands out for so many reasons. I love the butterfly. We can continue to enhance our Monarch Pledge. It is just stunning in every way around. Congratulations. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Any other questions or thoughts? Well, I'll just take a moment. I agree with what my colleague said. It really is, it's nice to see something unique and something that really does contribute to creating that town center that we were so strong on when we did the strategic plan, that was something that Palm Desert missed. And between San Pablo and CV Link, PD Link, and projects like this, it definitely is creating our town center. So it's great to see. It's just a beautiful building. Any other comments or questions?
To answer your question, the building is sitting about 3,500 square feet.
Okay. I'm trying to figure 3,500 is not, it's not a huge amount of space. And will that give us what we need when we talk about galleries and we talk about an actual visitor center, a place to, greet people and provide information? Is that enough?
Yeah, I'd like to say we think so, but it really depends on the intent and how this building and kind of its use may evolve over time. Right now we've really been challenged to look at it as a visitor center and some special event space, as well as some public art space. The square footage absolutely works for that. But if we look at additional programming, we may need to think about enlarging the building. There is some opportunity kind of already built into it with some of the outdoor enclosed areas, the different kiosks that could be provided. So there's some expandability to the building.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, although that's the enclosed square footage. There's a tremendous amount of covered outdoor space as well. That would be, I think, very useful for a good part of the year.
Okay, great. And I remember once we had talked about having some sort of observation deck or something like that. Was that incorporated into this?
It is not at this time. As we explored different design options, the verticality of the building, trying to do a rooftop deck became extremely challenging and costly, trying to accommodate elevator space and everything else.
All right. Thank you. Any other comments or thoughts? Well, I guess that was pretty easy then. You guys must have done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to John and Nicole for really working with our team to come up with a great design.
Great, thank you. Okay, any other comments? Closing comments on this part of our meeting? Okay, so let's move to our next item.
Okay, and this is a follow-up from the last budget discussion. Randy Bowman is back to provide us with kind of an overview of the development services, public works inside of the building. This initially had started as an opportunity to improve the customer experience and security for employees in the lobby itself. Obviously, we ran across some issues in terms of ADA concerns with the restrooms. And then we have also been studying the rest of the space for more of a long-term refresh of this building to try to improve its usefulness for the city, and also try to set it up for how we are working today and into the next 10 to 15 years. So that is the context. Randy, once again, I know that we scared the council a little bit at the last budget session, but one of the things that we've done with this is just kind of put it into 6 different modules that the building could be, that side of the building could be refreshed over time. So I've asked Randy to kind of break it down into those modules for you. The beauty of how he's put this together is, depending on the council's comfort level and how much they want to get accomplished over the next several years, we can take the first couple, we can add another module to it, but there's a logic that over time makes some sense in terms of how we work and how we use that facility. So I'll turn it over to Randy. We are definitely interested in getting your comments. Is there anything additional research you'd like to see on this building as well? Do you like, would you like us to reconsider the phasing? It's obviously a big number. That number is just going to get bigger over time. However, by spreading this out over several years, we have the ability to kind of assess our long-term staffing, as well as the ability to pay for it as it competes with other projects for general fund dollars. So Randy, I'm going to go ahead and kick this over to you, and we'll be happy to answer any questions when he's done.
Great, thank you, Todd. Make sure I'm clicking on the right thing. I'd like to cover several things in the study session today, including an overview of the building as it is today. I'd like to discuss also the purpose and need for facility improvements that between staff and our design build team and our third-party architect have identified. I'd like to talk about some space planning, as Todd alluded to, thinking for the future for our facility. Also, the recommended priorities and the potential cost for each pod in this improvement, and then open it up for discussion. So the overview, what you see is really the development services wing, south wing of City Hall. It's a little over 18,000 square feet for all of the areas within the exterior walls of this part of City Hall. I'll just do a quick roundup in the blue area. Today you have the management, the leadership of the development services department, as well as Eric Seha's office. We have in this area, we have our permit center housed and conducting their work. In the green area, that is really the lobby, a hallway back to the western entrance to the building, and the Development Services Conference Room, as well as the restrooms as they are today. The magenta includes areas including housing, the Deputy Director for Development Services, our planners, and the code enforcement and building inspector staffing. The red area is the Public Works staff that are located in City Hall. Orange is presently a storage area, and the new Traffic Operations Center that is being provided with the CVAG CV Sync traffic signal synchronization project that is being housed in the orange area. The gray area presently houses special programs, so that's also Public Works. That's art and public places, environmental and waste management. And then the very light, almost white color, that's the Public Works conference room and hallways. And then lastly, the yellow represents a break room for staff, the Emergency Operations Center as it is today, as well as some interior closets for custodial services. So let's view some photos of this interior of the building. This is the lobby in Development Services. Also on the little location map, if you look for the gold star, that is the "You Are Here" symbol on the map. There's another shot of the lobby. You're looking at the counter that the planners use when they meet with customers. Here is a shot of the men's restroom. We already were aware coming into this project of some very serious ADA deficiencies in our restrooms in terms of number of stalls, the accessibility of faucets, et cetera. And this project would seek to address all of those ADA deficiencies. Here's a shot of the storage room, the orange area, and it is very much a storage area. Just on the far right side of the larger photo, you can see one of the server racks for the Traffic Operations Center, and then the upper right hand of the screen is the Traffic Operations Center. It's not complete, but CVAG's team is starting to install the components for the TOC. One more shot of the storage room, a lot of files, and we have been working to convert paper to electronic media using our Laserfish system, and that's why you're seeing a lot of staff reports for records disposal. This is a shot of currently the building permit counter, and this is staffed by the Permit Center in Development Services. Another shot within the Permit Center area that the counter is to your left, and to your right are more staff offices, and directly behind you is Martin Alvarez's office. This is a shot of the planner area currently in the magenta portion of the site map, looking toward Richard Canoni's office. And here's another shot just showing the location of the Housing Authority staff offices in the magenta area. And then over here is Public Works looking south towards Fred Waring from outside of Andy Firestein's office. And one more looking back the other way, looking toward Andy's office, and then beyond Andy's office is the storage area that's orange. Here's a shot of the current condition of the Emergency Operations Center. It's very compact. And one more shot of the EOC. The door that you see goes out to the hallway that takes you to the outside. So I'd like to summarize the purpose and need for facilities improvements that we've identified thus far with this project. One is certainly increasing security. Today, say if staff from Public Works needs to meet with Martine in the blue area. We would leave the staff areas, walk through a public area, and walk up and meet with Mr. Alvarez. There really is no secure separation between the public aspect of the lobby and the staff areas. And as part of the improvement, we would seek to beef up the security. In addition, the permit center, the reconfigured counter for customers would include security elements, including panic buttons and ballistic material that the staff could hide behind in the case of an active shooter or other threatening situation. Addressing the ADA non-compliance, I've already mentioned that about the restroom facilities. The restroom facilities serve both staff and the public, and we need to increase the number of facilities in the restrooms and beef them up. But in addition, there are various other ADA deficiencies throughout the building, whether it's the height of signs or width of doorways or doorknobs. Those things all need to be brought up to ADA compliance. One thing that we've identified with this effort is there's probably a better way to house our emergency management operations in the event of an emergency. The photos show a very cramped location in the yellow area, and we've actually looked at moving the emergency operations area over to the orange area into a better arranged site that can, when it's not emergency, can serve as a multi-purpose room for training, for large meetings, including committee or commission meetings, etc. Improve customer service. That really is the core or the genesis for even looking at the improvements to the building, with the creation of the permit center and a focus on making development review more streamlined. Part of the streamlining is the actual physical part of the operation. When applicants and customers come to a counter, today they could be coming to multiple counters. With the project as we've conceived it, there is a consolidated permit center counter where multiple customers could be served at the same time by multiple staff members in a more secure and more customer-oriented environment. This dovetails with the Plant Moran study recommendations for streamlining and improving our processes. The simple act of walking from one department area in this building to another area would be greater facilitated by a reorganization of the lobby and creating pathways for staff to move between staff areas without having to go into the public area. This facility is several decades old, and as the photo indicates, there are some architectural elements that are perhaps out of date. But in addition to that, there's holes in drywall. There's paint that needs to be repainted. Carpeting is very old and worn. So there are aspects of just major maintenance that needs to be done to this building to extend its life and to preserve a safe and hospitable work environment for staff. We also, and on the next slide, I will show this. We also looked into the future for potential staffing needs, whether it is for full-time, part-time, or even temporary staffing to respond to perhaps increases in capital improvement programs or projects or development activity. The leadership of economic development, public works, and development services staff have proposed a modest ability to expand to accommodate additional staff in the future, as well as to reorganize the staff areas with the creation of the economic development unit under the city manager's office, and the changes in the permit center, as well as changes within public works, there is a substantial need to move some staff from one area to another so that we have work units in a more organized, in a more cohesive manner. And then lastly, an idea that we have as a part of this long-term facility look is by moving the emergency operations area over to a multi-purpose room in the orange area. The yellow area could be be used partly for the longer term expansion of the restroom facilities, as well as creating a wellness center for staff with some gymnasium equipment, showers, etc. And those showers and enhanced bathroom facilities could serve a dual purpose because if we have a longer term emergency management situation, the folks that are staffing the EOC may need to take breaks for hygiene, for rest, etc. So we're looking at multi-purpose flex type of space and as a part of this review of this building. So talking about the space planning, we did a complete inventory of the number of staff and the type of staff spaces, whether they're offices, cubicles, or shared space. How many do we have today? How many might we need over the coming 10 to 15 years? I did a comparison. Today you have 57 staff that are housed in this wing of over 18,000 square feet. We potentially could look at the ability to expand up to 70 staff members shared between offices, cubes, and shared space. Shared space is like a very large cube that would have multiple seats that would be shared, say, by field staff, our inspectors, or zoning inspectors, building inspectors, or public works inspectors that are outside most of the time, but need to come into home base every now and then to check messages, sync up their laptops, etc. So shared space is one of our most flexible types of spaces in the organization. On the right-hand side is a prospective list of additional types of staff members that could be needed over the coming years as service levels need to match the incoming development activity or capital improvement projects, et cetera. So talking about how to peel the layers off of this onion of a project, very large project prospectively. If you do everything, it's about a $12 million program. That's a very large bite of the apple. So we looked at, could this be broken down into phases? And really the phases from staff's perspective are determined by priority. The first priority, of course, is the lobby itself, to modernize it, match the permit center operations, plant moran study, et cetera. We presently have a design build team that's in contract for $1 million. We didn't know really what we were going to be getting into because it's design build. I think one of the big findings of the design build team is the need to comply with ADA. So the budget for just doing the lobby does need to increase to account for the early findings by the design build team. If you wanted to look at a package to comprise a first priority, then the multi-purpose space, staff would recommend that be in that first package, because we would use the multi-purpose area as swing space or hoteling space for staff when another part of this building is under construction, so that we can remain in operations, serve the public, and continue doing our functions. So say if the blue area is under construction, then we would look at moving a lot of those staff into the orange area temporarily while the blue area is under construction. We are recommending, as part of the first phase, to consider the blue area, the development services area that meshes with the permit center, as well as includes the management of the Department of Development Services. Prospectively, then you can move into a second priority. That would be the magenta area below the green lobby area. And then follow that up with the public works area in red, and then wrapping everything up with a reconfiguration of the current Emergency Operations Center space. That concludes my presentation. We are here to answer your questions.
Thank you so much. I have a quick question. When was this city hall built? Does anybody have that date, year?
I'm dialing for my lifeline, but I believe it was in the 80s.
I thought so too. I just wondered if you had anything more specific than that.
My lifeline will tell me and I'll provide that back to you.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, please.
Thank you. So maybe like some of the others, I'm trying to get my arms around this $12 million price tag. And I'm trying to understand, I think you said all in, it's about 18,000 square feet that we're looking to refurbish. So that's somewhere close to 700 a square foot for a refurbishment. Construction costs, and they vary. For new construction are around 300 a square foot. And we just looked at Discover Palm Desert, which is ultra high end, new construction, new everything, foundation, electrical, plumbing, framing, roofing, I can go on. And that was 1,000 a square foot. How do we get to $700 a square foot for just updating?
Very fair question to ask. So it really depends on which color area you're in, council member. The blue area, the red and magenta areas, you're probably talking new carpeting, repainting, fixing holes in walls, as well as new furniture and fixtures, such as cubicle units. Cubicles are not cheap. They do cost a lot. Those are probably your lowest per square foot cost. The higher ones are anything related to plumbing, which would be the restrooms. The yellow area is the current EOC. And then of course the orange area is a high square foot cost because it's really largely unfinished. And we've also identified differential settlement that may be occurring in the floor in that area. And there's some additional work that needs to be done to the actual footings and flooring in that part of the building.
Okay, and then a follow-up question, then I'll be done. You listed a lot of different things that would be done under the proposal, some of which are new, like a wellness center. Would it be a lot of time and effort to give us a list of the work that is included in the $12 million, prioritized from what is absolutely essential, like maybe ADA compliance or whatever, all the way to the other end of the spectrum, which is we wish we had this, but we've lived without it for 40 years and we could probably live without it for 40 more, like the wellness center. So kind of not a priority of timeline as you have on the slide that's in front of us, but a priority in terms of what do we really need all the way down to what do we want but can live without. Does that make sense?
It does. The list of for the purpose and need really in a general sense outlines those priorities, starting with security and moving your way down the list.
Oh, on the current slide, you mean, or is that
on
on
the current slide? Yes, sir.
So where would I draw the line? Because what I'm getting at is if 12 million is too much, what could we chop off and still get done what we really need to get done? So if we only did priority one, is that where this is what we really need? Everything else is, I don't want to say fluff, but not mandatory. Where's the cutoff?
If we could apply this to each one of these phases. Sorry for the slow slides. I could apply that list to each one of these phases, do a little matrix to portray what elements in that priority list are being addressed with each phase?
Yeah, because one possible compromise, instead of saying yes to 12 million, is say, well, let's say yes to these. And then depending on how the economy does and our budget does and so forth, then, we'll let each future council decide about the add-ons. That's kind of where I'm going with that, if that makes sense. And that's the information that I would need to look at it from that perspective. So thank you.
Sure thing.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yeah, I support that request. I think that would be highly useful to the council. And part of what you should tell us, of course, is when does it make sense to do more than is minimally necessary, just because once you've torn something up, it's going to be more economical in the long term to get done what needs to get done. I'm thinking of bathrooms. We have to tear them up to address ADA issues. We've all been there. Once you tear up the bathroom, you might as well do, what you have in mind to do. And on the last item, the employee wellness gym shower, you should be in marketing, Randy, because you're really good at showing how all of these things can be beneficial. I'm curious to know whether we know if any current staff are using the gym equipment and the showers that exist at Civic Center at the Desert Rec facility. Because if nobody's using those, then this would seem to be one of those bright ideas that is kind of a miss in terms of people's actual practices. Most folks who are interested in exercising have a routine. They might be doing something closer to home than at work. But if people are using that facility, it's meaningful information. I'd also be curious to know where this came from. Did it come from widespread employee interest, or was it just somebody's brainchild? So thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Quintanilla, please.
Still muted. Thank you, Mayor. I support Councilmember Kelly's questions regarding whether this is something that was presented from staff. Was it a trend? Actually, I have seen it implemented in other workforce settings, but it was mostly higher education, where again, staff are working varied hours. It's a larger organization. And also I have used the facilities. I've just let my membership lapse. Sometimes it is pretty busy and then you've got to get there early because there are people that wait. Whether they're staff members or not, I can't say, but there are those of us that use it.
Are there any other questions or comments? I just have a few. I appreciate all the comments made by my colleagues. And there's no question that, I was looking at the pictures that we were sent prior to this meeting. That lobby looks tired. I mean, it is dull, it is tired, it is, I'm sure not a great place to walk into every day to say, this is where I work. And we are welcoming people. And we always have to remember too, it's the, ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure. We don't want to let things get so far down the road that it's going to cost increasingly more and more to bring them up to speed, code, ADA compliance, etc. So I am very interested in getting more of that information that was requested. But I do think this is something we have to look at. And how does this represent our city? How does it allow our staff to do their job as well as possible? Are they in a very comfortable environment? And are they able to get to each other and work well with each other? Is it conducive to creating a teamwork type of atmosphere, which I know this building has struggled with for many years just because of the way it is designed. So I think it's, we really have to look at so many facets of this issue, not just the money and do we need to reupholster and recarpet things. There's a lot of human parts to this equation that we need to look at. So I do look forward to getting that other information. Are there any other questions, thoughts?
I would like to ask on, I think we've got good feedback on this building. In terms of the first presentation on Discover Palm Desert, how would you like us to proceed? Would you like us to come back to you with the budget request? People are obviously happy with the design and the creativity of that building, but how would you like us to present that back to you?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan?
I'd like to be in construction tomorrow. So whatever the quickest path towards getting council approval, if the council is so inclined, I would favor. I think the time is now.
Councilmember Nestandi.
Yes, I agree with Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan. And like I had mentioned previously, Envision San Pablo is getting such positive responses. It really has created a downtown core for Palm Desert, and we really need the visitor center as well. I believe it's such a huge asset. And yes, as soon as we can move forward, the better.
Great. Councilmember Kelly.
Well, Savvy and I are feeling very affirmed because our colleagues are so well pleased with the fruits of our feedback during the course of this process. So it would seem that our taste is sufficiently in sync with the council as a whole that it would be possible to delegate to the subcommittee any further details about decision-making if the project as a whole comes to the council for approval.
Thank you. Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to commend staff for being able to present this in a tiered fashion, so it lets us have less to choose from. ADA must be at the top of the list. And I'm thinking, since the issue of the wellness center is kind of getting tossed around, I would like to ask of staff if in that list of items that would be under consideration, if maybe you could prioritize and say, this is the equipment that we really would be think is beneficial, and here's some of the other things that we like. For example, showers, I think, would be important for the reasons of safety or search should we need it. But again, what is the rest of the budget for? Thank you.
Okay, and back to Discover Palm Desert. I love the whole concept of it. It really will create that center that we were looking for so strongly when we did that strategic plan, and it's great. And the sooner we can have details on how we move forward, that's great. I have a question. I know at one point you were saying we want to build it out of containers, and we quickly found out financially it wasn't feasible. That wasn't really a great idea. It sounded good. But if anybody's had a chance to look at some of the container parks, there's a great one in Las Vegas. You can see the potential of those containers that were sketched into the proposal. So yeah, the sooner we can know how we can go forward with this and provide another place to welcome people and educate people about Palm Desert, the better off we are. Any other additional questions or thoughts? Okay. About our city manager, do you have any other questions of us?
I think we've got a good plan on Discover Palm Desert. In terms of the development services facility, I think what you heard from Randy today, that first section or two probably is what we're going to come back to you recommending. I think we're in alignment with where Savvy is, honestly, with the the building program over a number of years for future councils, depending on how we're setting financially. What I'm trying to make sure that we don't do is keep coming back to the council every year with a different project, and the council saying,
Right.
why didn't you think about this holistically at one time? So I think that, I think that section A and B are going to need to be done to get us into compliance and then provide that flexibility for future projects. So we'll work on putting together a plan for that, and then also answer your questions in terms of what are the absolute priorities, what are we getting out of each section. So I appreciate your feedback, and I think we got what we needed today.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional thoughts? Seems like we said what we had to say. It's 2:52 and we're scheduled to be back here at 3:30. See you then. Thank you, everyone.